Good evening. It is about 10 till 8 on Thursday, August 6th, 2020. And I just have to get something off my chest here. I know some of y'all have seen what's going on in Paulding County, Georgia, where all those kids are huddled together like cattle in hallways, not wearing masks, during this whole COVID 19 outbreak. It's still a pandemic. I'm sorry. It's everywhere. I know several people who have lost loved ones to this. It is not a hoax. It is not a liberal propaganda. And it's funny because I grew up in Georgia. Actually grew up not far from Paulding County. I grew up in Gordon County, which is, if I remember correctly, one county north, or I should say two counties north, one county over from Paulding County. And I'm not surprised that this has happened because I I'm almost surprised that the school district I grew up in, or I went to school with, hadn't done this, and because this is kind of something they would have done. Um, I remember the most craziest thing that ever happened when I was going to school back a long time ago. I'm almost 42, so this is like um, Ronald Reagan was still president. When this happened. That's how old it was. That's how long ago it was. Anyway, there was a flu outbreak. I think it was the winter of '88. Might have been '89. I think. Like I said, Reagan was still president, but Bush was coming in. Daddy Bush was coming in. Whatever. Anyway, it was 30 something years ago. All right. Anyway, like a lot of schools in Georgia just quit, like quit classes. Everything like closed because people had the flu for weeks, and you'd come to school, and normally there'd be about 2 dozen people in your classroom. There'd be like a dozen people in your classroom. Half the class would be gone. And what was so funny was the following school year, they took us to the health department in buses to get flu shots. If we hadn't already had our flu shots already. And my mother took my brother and I to the health department. And there were like 20 people already waiting in line to get a flu shot. So, what has happened in the last 30 years? Has this just turned into idiocracy? And what's really funny about all this is that they have actually suspended some of the kids who posted these photos, and I'm not surprised because that's the, pardon me for language, but bullshit bureaucracy that goes on in our public education system now. Now, I don't want anyone saying, "Well, don't be bashing the teachers. Don't be bashing the teachers." I have so many friends and family who are teachers. I'm not talking about them, but I am talking about the jackasses who, for some reason or another, always want to bitch and gripe, but yet whenever you turn around and try to say something against their institution, which I really think is an appropriate term because some of these people should be fucking committed, in my opinion, to mental institutions, especially the ones out here in Oklahoma who like to rape little girls and boys. Oh, did I say that out loud? Ooh, I'm sorry, but seriously, if you want to rape young child, you should be in a mental hospital. Okay, I'm sorry. Either that or prison. So you don't belong in a classroom. But it just seems, I dealt with this before as I was a journalist covering education, which would make you or any person else committed to a hospital, because having to cover education, you have to be fucking crazy. I mean, you have to be a nut bar to put up with this, because a lot of these, um, a lot of this stuff is just, I don't know what purpose it serves. I mean, why can't you just let the teachers teach this, that, and that? Why does it have to be so foolishly structured, especially in 2020, toward an archaic 20th century template that would more or less prepares people for factory manufacturing jobs that they don't have? And I said this in another video. When I was going to school, they kind of moved a lot of people away from doing VOTEC education, which is so stupid, because they were actually forcing a lot of young, talented, skilled people to redivert their attention on things they weren't interested in. And I have several step grandkids. Two of them have gone to college, and two others, they're now working, and I guess factory jobs, and that's okay. And the oldest grandson, he was very good at VOTEC skills, and I believe that kind of helped him out. But it was kind of to his benefit, because he actually went to a suburban school outside of Tulsa that actually had that available, or else he would have probably just, as the old saying goes, falls through the cracks, which is what a lot of young kids do. But going back to this whole thing of the way they act, like, well, they violated policy regarding minors, blah 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 blah. Yeah. I know. I've seen it before. I've heard it before. Yes. I know. I've heard it before. I know what's going on. There's some kids involved in a divorce proceeding. They don't want them to know where they're going to school. Somebody may. Yeah, I've heard it. I've had to deal with it as a journalist. I've had to deal with it. And I know it can be aggravating to administrators that you have to make sure every child is not getting their picture out there. But this is 2020, for God's sakes. Social media, TikTok, Instagram. I don't think the kids today use Facebook, Snapchat. I mean, if they're trying to hide, they're doing a terrible job at it. I mean, if you're a parent and you're trying to hide your kid's identity from, I guess a custody hearing or whatever, or if it's, I understand the sensitive materials, but I don't think it applies to like everybody at school. I think in this day and age, GPS and all this other stuff, it doesn't work. And that's what, going back to the administrators, y'all gonna have to just stop this fight y'all have against social media. It's not gonna work. And they were putting up with it when I was covering education, and this is a fight educators and administrators are going to lose. They're losing. And they're not focusing their efforts on the real problems with social media, which is cyberbullying. And the the way they're acting here in this Paulding County school is, well, if anyone caught criticizing the school, we'll have disciplinary action. Man, if social media was around 25 years ago when I was in high school, I probably would have been expelled. Because I would have ripped that school apart like you wouldn't believe. And I just thought this assholery that was prevalent there was only isolated, but actually it's widespread. And I don't know if it's just because certain people turn into assholes once they become school administrators. I don't know if somehow they're more worried. Well, I know they're more worried about who's paying the bills and whose houses are, getting the most property taxes off of, because I know when I was going to school, I was almost kicked out of a football game one time, even though I had reserved seating because my parents weren't as important as some of the other parents. Yeah. And let's keep this right about how we shouldn't say bad things about the school, And as I helped out with the Special Olympics, I was noticing a lot of these kids weren't really, I don't know how you can say it. I know that you can't go into somebody's mind, but I got the impression that a few of these kids were in Special Olympics because their parents weren't important enough, making enough money. Maybe they lived in an apartment. Maybe they lived in a trailer park somewhere. But they were very bright, young minds, and unfortunately they were forced into special education by a school district that did not want their grades to reflect poorly overall on the whole school. So it happens everywhere. I mean, and that's something these schools need to look at. And I want to tell all these kids something here in Paulding County or anywhere else. Register to vote. Because there's a lot of y'all out there. This is your year to really get back at these people for all the shit they put you through all these years. The funniest thing is, I think a lot of these, school administrators, they want to bully. They're the bullies. They want to bully people around for a good bit, and then like 10 years later, when you try to buy a house or you try to do all this stuff, and then they'll stick this bond proposal in your face saying, hey, we need you to vote on this because we need a football field, or this building here is only 10 years old but it's already outdated by our standards, so we want to raise it and we want to build it back up again, so you're going to spend the next 10 years paying it off so we can just turn around and do the same thing all over again. It happens everywhere for me. But what are they going to do about social media? They can't do anything because this is a lawsuit waiting to happen, people. I mean, you got so many problems here, and if you want to see how bad things can get, go watch that. I think it's a documentary called Kids for Cash. It was about a scandal in Western Pennsylvania, I think it is, in which kids were literally being sent to prison or juvenile detention center, but it was prison for saying bad things about the principals or the administrators. And remember this, the people you treat bad on the way up, they're going to treat you bad when you're on the way down. And I really did not like a lot of people I went to high school with. I really didn't like a lot of the administrators, some of the teachers, and I almost had uh, an incident one time in which I nearly bit my lip off trying to tell this woman. I was like a couple of years after I had graduated. I was still in college then, but she just would not shut the fuck up. And for years we heard her yap 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 yap. I mean, it was like a chatty Cathy dog. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like pulling the string out of her herself. And I just wanted to say to her, please shut the fuck up. And another time I was at a sporting event, somewhere I was at a school event. Anyway, I was like 19 or 20, and I used to smoke. And one of these teachers just literally gave me this eat shit look. And I was like, bring it on, I mean, this is the caliber of people in our education system now. I mean, they really do not understand that that we're only like a century away from a public education in our society. There used to be a time, like 100 years ago, a lot of kids worked in factories. And maybe that's what Betsy DeVos and Trump is trying to do. They're trying to get us back to the old days, so that education is only for the important people, the rich and the cultured and white people. I'm sorry. Oh, did I say that out loud too? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Conservative Christians. Sorry. Excuse me. A little Coke. Yes. I'm in Oklahoma. I'm drinking Coke. Hey. I'm from Georgia. Hey. I know a lot of people used to work for Coke. Who still do. Nice place. Go see it on the World of Coke tour whenever they open it. If they open it up pretty good. Stay away from that nasty drink called Beverly. They say it's pretty bad. But anyway, I'm rambling here. But I think the best thing to do is to buck the system, because a lot of these people, they're not going to be in these positions forever. And I know a lot of teachers who I think they teach because they don't want the administrative positions. And the problem here in Oklahoma and a lot of other states is there's too many school districts, and I call them mercenary superintendents. And just to give you for instance, where I go vote is a community building called Lost City. And if you were to drive by this place, you'd think it was a crack house. It used to be a school, but they closed it down because they weren't getting enough money. And let me just say, what happened was they weren't getting enough money because they weren't sending enough kids to the school, and they had a superintendent there who was embezzling money. Now, they had a superintendent, and I have to say they must have had an enrollment of maybe a couple hundred kids. And then they had, and this was only for like elementary schools. Maybe it was 100 kids at one point. She embezzles this money. They have a principal. They have like so many people getting all this money. But the teachers and the kids aren't getting crap. I pay so much on my taxes because my property, because almost every few years the local school district, they'll run out of money, and the teachers union has to file a friendly suit, which they don't want to do, but they got to get paid. And damn it, they should get paid. They did the job, pay them. But guess who's supposed to bill? I do. My neighbors do. They probably do. If they have a property in the school district, they're actually paying themselves. Because the fucking school district pays off these damn superintendents on 2 or 3 year contracts. They screw up, and they get to go, sit on their ass for about a year and a half, collect $100,000. That's correct. $100,000 a year for doing nothing. we ran a story when I was in the newspaper. We ran a story on local, uh, more like not local, but Tulsa area superintendents and what they were getting made, what they were making in that, and it was a year, and it was pretty crazy. Some of these people. I remember at one time, Tulsa Public Schools had a superintendent who was fucking living in Texas of all places. But he was coming, I think he was flying into, to Tulsa whenever he had to do a job or go to a meeting or do all this other crazy shit. But, I think it's funny that they're focusing on the kids' safety and this when it comes to, oh, we need to protect their safety on the internet from social media, but they don't really care about their safety whenever it comes to their own, well-being. I mean, they're going to get sick. They're going to take it home. Their brothers and sisters are going to get sick. Their parents are going to get sick. Their grandparents are going to get sick. And Joe bus drivers are going to get sick. The lunch ladies are going to get sick. The custodians are going to get sick. And they're going to interact with other people because, lots of people don't get paid much. They probably got another job on the side. I'm pretty sure the custodian may have a job on the side. The bus drivers may have a job on the side. And it doesn't matter if these kids were suspended because I'm pretty sure by Labor Day weekend, the whole fucking school district's probably going to be closed down again. And, if you really wanted to help out the kids, teach them things they need to learn about. It's funny that, I lived here in Oklahoma, and the first thing I heard about the first few months I was living here was about the Tulsa race massacre. Not race massacre. And a lot of people didn't know about it until it was on Watchmen. And, growing up in the South, they always spread this lost cause, Civil War bullshit on you. No. And, Reconstruction was bad. Reconstruction was actually a pretty progressive time in America. And unfortunately, we decided that it was too progressive. And you hear about women's suffrage in the early 20th century, but did you know that a lot of states, well, not a lot of states, but a few states actually were refusing in the 19th century to be admitted into the United States unless women were given the rights to vote? No, of course not. They don't want you to know that. They want to teach you about stupid shit like the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer. They want to put that back in school, which I'm personally okay with. I mean, I'm okay with FCA. I'm okay with see you at the poll. But I ask you this one thing. Whenever we do get back to normal, have FCA every day. Have see you at the poll every day. Don't make it a weekly thing or a 1 week thing. And see what happens. I guarantee you one thing. If you had see you at the poll all year round, it would not even get through week 2. You know why? Because everybody wants to go say they're all Christian people. I know I got a cross right behind me right here. But, people would, once you take away the mystique of it, the clique, everybody doesn't want to do it. And I really don't like how people bully kids. I was once at school one time when I was working, and a principal who thankfully they got rid of, even though the public just wanted him back, but he was an asshole. Pardon me. He threatened to suspend or even expel a young woman because she didn't stop in time enough for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, that is some fascist bullshit. And I think that's why a lot of people go into education. Not a lot of people, but I think some people go into education because they love that bullying mentality. Because, let's face it, high school, public education is probably the last place on this planet where you can literally do whatever you want to somebody else. You can set your own rules. And what's so fucked up is there are so many people nowadays who want teachers to go back to beating students for doing bad things. Not paddling, not spanking, taking a 2x4 and whacking them across their back. Now, I want to ask you one question. If you had a job and your boss did that to you, what the fuck would you do? I wouldn't go back to work there. I probably would beat the fuck out of him. If you were in a relationship with somebody and they did that, whew. But it's okay at school. Chewing gum. Here you go. I'm going to hit you. I think the biggest problem is that we really need to stop what we're doing in education. I think we've gotten to the point where teachers last year stepped up at the last minute, no warning, and said, okay, we're going to look out for these kids' safety, and here's what we're going to do in distance learning and homeschooling and everything. And they did it. But yet we still want to act like they need to be back in school. And I understand a lot of kids need social interaction. But you got to stop thinking in 20th century archaic terms. This is 2020. There are kids now in school, seniors, who were not even born in this century. Their parents probably weren't even together at the beginning of the 21st century. But yet we still want to live and operate in these old-fashioned times. And I just think it's time we stopped. I mean, that's why the newspaper industry screwed up. It's because you had to meet these old dinosaurs, and I'm just going to say that with no euphemisms, these old geezers who still did not realize how important the internet was going to be, how important social media was going to be, and they just let it come in and scoop them, and that's why it's a dying industry. And I'd hate to see public education end up that way, because I do think that there's a lot of good there. And like I said, I have a lot of friends who are educators, and I'd hate to see them out of the job. And, I've met all my friends at high school, and a woman I love now, we met in high school, and I know that sounds old-fashioned, but I still love her. She's out there. I love you. And I just think that we just need to do things differently. I don't think we need to suspend kids for telling the truth. And quite frankly, if I was my child, I probably would be the proudest parent alive right now. I've always been the type of guy who doesn't follow the herd, or whatever the term is, go against the grain. But whoever did that was very concerned, and we shouldn't punish them by suspending them, because one day that kid's going to hopefully not keep quiet about something else. And it should inspire other kids to not keep quiet about other things. So, thank you. Thanks for listening.